Hello and welcome to our 29th chat on our 30-day raw vegan project. This is Your Health, Your Way. I'm Kurt, and today Lisa and I are going to talk about our switch from processed and cooked foods to raw vegan foods. So Lisa, how did your day go today?
Well, today's Sunday, and this temptation is really bad about the cooked and processed foods, especially grains, dairy, and sugar. On Friday or Saturday, when I ate this food because it was the weekend and I could do it, I wasn't even really craving it. But I did it because it was like my hall pass, so to speak, my weekend out. And then what I think it did is it started triggering the taste buds and especially the salt. And it made me want that zing even more. So I did have some cooked and processed foods today, and I felt bogged down. And I just feel better when I'm eating mostly raw. So weekday starts tomorrow, so I'll be going back to the raw food.
Okay, well, good.
Now, how are you doing? Please tell me you're doing better than me, because you've been doing really well.
I'm actually still feeling really good.
Good.
We are approaching the end of our 30-day project, and I'm really beginning to pick up steam, I guess. I'm feeling better mentally. I feel better physically. I've got the energy. And I'm generally, I think, a bit happier than I remember being before I started this. So, or even early on in this project. I started my day with kind of an herbal smoothie. It's basil, cilantro, parsley, ginger, some spinach and cucumbers, and mixed it with dates to sweeten it up. It was a little bit interesting to taste, but it was doable because of the dates. So I sort of sipped on that throughout the morning. So then at lunch I had another smoothie, which was the one that you made this morning, and that was really good. It was almost like candy. It was so good. It was made with the mixed berries.
After that morning one, anything tastes like candy, all right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it had mixed berries, some mixed melons, some coconut oil, and dates.
Dates, and some hemp seeds, and spinach.
Okay.
Yeah, spinach was the only greens I think I put in there.
It was really fabulous, whatever was all in there. And so that was really a nice way to follow up the herbal thing that I did. But, it's good for my system, and on both counts. And then in the afternoon, I had some dehydrated red bell pepper chips with our famous or infamous raw vegan taco dip from the store, whatever.
We need to start getting commission off of that.
We should.
We just should.
And then I also had a couple of the raw vegan fruit bars that are made with nuts as well. So, probably more nuts than I would normally have in a day, but I don't think I overdid it. So, feeling pretty good there. Now, one thing that I do recognize is that even at this point, I've remained a raw vegan foodist now for 29 days, and I still am fighting temptation. I saw you having your snack before we started, and I just really wanted something. Wanted something of what you had. Yeah. So, and it wasn't raw vegan or good food at all. So.
And we've heard these raw vegans say that even after years of being raw vegans, some of them still have the temptation. Sometimes, some of them, the temptation eventually goes away. Mm-hmm. I guess the power of knowing that those things are not giving you full life is more powerful than the pleasure that consuming those foods give you.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're very...
Yeah, it's just powerful stuff. So the temptations are still there. I still fight them off. And I hope, we'll see. I hope it continues, but we'll see how I feel further on down the line. So now, speaking of that, I get it, that when lots of people see this, they're going to look at this raw vegan idea and think that we've gone nuts. This movement is gaining some popularity, especially in places like California. But I think a lot of modern contemporaries generally don't want to live on fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. I mean, there are just too many new and interesting ideas coming out in restaurants and groceries. And, I mean, I'm not a rabbit. Give me a Philly cheesesteak, right? I get that. So, what did you first think about this vegan idea when it came out?
Well, I wanted to add that just recently, one of our, I think our favorite childhood cookies that we grew up as children has come out in like 4 different flavors.
Oh, sure.
With, I'm sure, all kinds of colorings and preservatives. I mean, imagine the chemicals to make it taste the way it does. It's interesting. So
And
there will
inventing
always
new
be
flavors is
All the
really
time.
becoming popular nowadays with processed foods.
stuff. Keep that dopamine receptor going in the
Yeah,
brain.
and keep people interested.
Well, okay. I wanted to talk about my outlook on the term, these different terms that deviate from the standard American diet, like vegetarians. When the first time I heard the word vegetarian, I thought it was some oogie person living up in the mountains of Boulder, Colorado, you know, and eating healthy food, as if that was something bad. I mean, you know, I could think of much worse things people could be and do and live, but it was just my lack of knowledge back then. And when I was in my graduate studies and I worked in the healthcare field, there was a big push for animal protein. During that same time, I worked in a health food store where I remember this one guy came in and he says, "Do you have any vegan protein powder?" I looked at him like he had 3 heads. I'm like, what the hell is that? I mean, that sounded like vegetarianism, only weirder to me back then. So as time went on, I guess that brings me to about 2 years ago when my holistic doctor had recommended to me to stop grains, dairy, and sugar because of a lot of the allergies and asthma that I was having. I had trouble losing weight, and I had really been battling it. So it was affecting my thyroid. So I had benefited from greatly reducing dairy, grains, and sugar, not just gluten, but grains. And I was telling a friend of mine who had similar problems as I did back then, and he would say, okay, you know, and then one day he sends me a meetup link to a raw vegan meetup group. And I'm like, raw vegan, what the hell is that? I mean, it sounded disgusting and dangerous and boring at the very least. So about a year or 2 later, I sent him information about raw veganism, and he's like, well, I told you about this a couple of years ago or last year, and you poo-pooed it all over the place. So I think we have to be ready. You know, we learn things when we're ready, and we open our eyes to things when we're ready. So that has been my experience with food. What has been your upbringing about food?
Well, I guess I've always admired vegetarians and vegans for my part. I was brought up in a household where we grew a lot of our own vegetables. We picked a lot of our own nuts. Fruits were sort of a requirement at breakfast and lunch.
That's good.
I think we pretty much ate in accordance with USDA's food pyramid. I think by most standards, it was, kind of on the healthy side, though. And my folks were very conscious about what we ate based on the knowledge that they had. And we didn't get bread from a bag. Our bread was made from scratch at home without lots of chemicals. We didn't get cakes and cookies from a box. Again, those things were homemade when we got them. And they limited our intake of soft drinks and things like that. So there was definitely a consciousness in my household when I grew up. Now, I know it's not a popular thing to admit, and it is oftentimes popular to look down on the bleeding hearts of society, but I am going to say that I am a bleeding heart. I
As if
admit
that's
that.
something bad, right?
And I recognize that I am a bleeding heart, and it is what it is.
And that's good. That's good that you are.
When I was about 10 or 11 years old, I intentionally killed a rabbit with my dad's shotgun, and my heart has bled ever since. I've always revered life, and I never want to feel the way I felt again that day. So, but it wasn't until my early 20s, after I'd been on my own for a few years, that I really started to toy around with vegetarianism and eventually pescatarianism. And it was actually around that time that the rest of my family, my immediate family, my folks, and I have a sister as well, that they were doing kind of the same thing. And none of us knew the others were doing it until later, shortly after that, after we had all decided to make those changes in our lives.
Interesting.
So, but I wasn't doing it for my health. I was doing it to support my values and to not eat meat. By that time, I was already steeped in, a strong addiction to sugar, and worse, I was abusing alcohol and recreational drugs at that time as well. So it wasn't actually until I met you that I made that you kind of introduced me to
Like the soy.
looking at my health in terms of how I was eating as well. And one of the things that I always grew up with, just like everybody else, is if you're not eating meat, where's your protein?
Right.
So after you introduced me to like some soy-based protein powders or supplements, which now we know probably weren't the best either,
Right.
but that's when I started to think a little bit more about what I'm putting in my body. It was because of meeting you that I actually decided that maybe if I were in better health, that I might be able to support my own values a little bit better too. And it really wasn't until very recently, with the beginning of this, or just before this 30-day project, that I decided to actually start doing something about it. So, but I'm sure the question still continues to circulate in a lot of people's minds, just because of the conditioning we've had over the years, is where are we getting our protein?
Yes.
So,
Well, I get that question every time I tell people that we're doing mostly juices, smoothies, and salads. Okay. So again, proteins, and we've mentioned this in other videos, animal proteins are macronutrients. They're large molecules. The plants have the simplified form of that protein, which are amino acids. Plants are also alkaline. Animal protein is hard to digest, it is acidic, plus you're ingesting all the antibiotics, the hormones, the chemicals used to process the food, and then you cook the food, so what little nutrient it might have, it's destroyed. What I started using was, for protein, is hemp seeds, chia seeds, soaked and sprouted nuts and seeds. And goodness knows, we have seen many videos about raw vegan bodybuilders. So if those people can put on muscle by eating plant protein, then I think that says a lot.
something's working.
That's extreme. It doesn't mean you have to go to that route or that extreme. But if they can do it, then I think we can get enough protein from plants, So,
Well,
wanna add something else?
yeah. I mean, what do you think about salad then?
well, I was on the standard American diet for 43 years, and I used to think of salad as being, a little bitty bowl of iceberg salad and tomato, which was very tasteless and boring, and it's what people usually eat when they want to lose weight, and usually the people eating it don't look very happy to be eating it. And then 10 years ago, when I started finding out about more exciting salads. A lot of them had like chicken in it, different animal proteins, or have high-fat salad dressings in them, dairy-based salad dressings. And sometimes, I would see, like, in some weight loss programs, they would say, well, fill up on a salad so that you don't eat so much of the main dish. And at least that's on the right track. Salad, it should be salad should be like the main meal, period.
Right.
But at least if it reduces the amount of processed foods you're having, that is great. And that's one of the things that I helped my parents with when I went to visit them a few months ago. And to this day, they're doing that. I'm very proud of them. They're having huge salads and filling up on that, and then not having so much of their processed foods. But they're not
Perfect.
ready to let go of the processed foods yet.
But that's, again, we each have to kind of find our own formula. And if, putting more salads and more fruits and vegetables in your system to counterbalance the other things you're eating helps, then good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you for doing those things.
Yeah.
So now, it actually, and that's really what you're talking about, is where I was just 29 days ago. I really even I kind of just dispensed with the fruits and the salads and the vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And, not that I'm one to go around talking about manliness, but that's, if we look at the social stigmas behind some foods, fruits and vegetables and salads are not manly foods. And it's kind of
It's
kind of interesting that we think of things that way in terms of masculinity, but there are plenty of people out there that would look at raw vegan foods as that way. And I thought I was in plenty good shape as it was without the fruits and vegetables and the salads and so on and so forth. And by comparison, I probably was in pretty good shape for a man my age, which is, again, that's kind of sad. But I'll tell you what else isn't manly. What else is not manly is finding out that your body is not functioning to its full potential. And now I'm actually beginning to find out that I was nowhere near the shape that I should be in. Now I'm beginning to find out that my mental state, my emotional state, and my physical state is growing every day, and it was not where it should have been. All of my organs, internal and external, are beginning to function better and better. So, take that as you will. But all in all, I feel like a better version of myself. And I'm still me. I'm just a version of me that feels better.
I noticed this morning when I was going through the big shopping warehouse, I normally go through it pretty quickly, but I was moving quickly, not in an anxious way to try and finish and get out of there. It was just like I had the energy. So even though, by that time I had not had my processed food yet.
You still running your smoothie.
I was still running off my fabulous fruit smoothie. And I was just feeling good. I'm like, that's why you see some of these elderly people just moving at the, like a rocket. When they're healthy, they got all this energy.
So if you are thinking of fruits and vegetables and vegan foods as maybe too feminine for you, take a minute to step back and think about, when your body isn't functioning the way it should be. Take a look at the masculinity of that as well. So, but even those of us that have embraced the raw vegan community, in its modern form, could be doing better than we are, right?
We can always improve. We can always do better. And it's tough these days because produce isn't what it used to be. The reason that plants get minerals and vitamins that we then ingest is because they get it from the soil. Nowadays, the soil quality is so awful that it's missing all the nutrients, so we're not even getting it. And then add to that all the toxic accumulations that we ingest, it blocks the absorption and utilization of those vitamins and minerals. So how much are we really getting, And then, of course, you have organic produce that is good, but I think that's just the concept of having to have organic and regular, as if organic is this special quality. That is the way fruit and vegetables are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be laden with poor soil, grown in poor soil and laden with chemicals and pesticides. And it's awful that we have to pay extra to get food in the way that it's supposed to be,
Right.
And then there's discrepancies about, what does organic mean? Does it mean that it just has no pesticides? Does it mean that it was grown in better soil, and how much better soil? So then you might not even get what you think you're getting. It's a real sad thing.
It is. And, we've grown so far from natural that doing what's natural has become weird.
Yes.
The fact that we're making videos right now about living a raw vegan lifestyle for 30 days is interesting in and of itself. Eating natural food has become marginalized.
Yeah. Made fun of.
Yeah, it's such to the point that it's an anomaly now.
Yeah.
And here we are making videos about the experience, and there are documentaries on the subject too. So obviously it's far enough away from the norm to be interesting.
It's so backwards.
So I wonder if maybe it's time for us to unwind ourselves from the marketing and the social stigmas, and maybe take some time to start learning about ourselves. Each one of us taking some time to reconnect with the one person that matters, and that's ourself. No matter how beaten down you are, no matter how worried you are about what other people think about, you getting involved in touchy-feely emotional self-reflection, no matter if you already believe you already have it figured out, we're never too old to keep learning about ourselves, and we're never too young to start.
For pets and animals as well.
And for pets and animals too. So take a good long look in the mirror tonight and find someone to love.
This is Your Healthier Way. Thank you for joining us.
Join us tomorrow, and we're going to take a look back and recap our 30 days on raw vegan foods.
Memories.
Thank you.
Have a good night.